Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks, Dr. Sabu, and the committee, Dr. Jajang Joshi, Dr. Vimohan, and everybody to be here. I'm going to start with something very challenging, to look at the perfect storm in diabetes. So where do we start? Titanic made a history. 100 years ago, a ship supposed never be able to sink. And what happened? Was it because iceberg? No, it wasn't. On the night Titanic sank, there was geomagnetic storm taken down the navigation and communication. And that was what the core reason brought this ship down. So now, what about diabetes? It's supposed to be an unsinkable ship. You see, immediately after animal study, human study, after that Nobel Prize winning, after that commercial use insulin, you can't find a better achievement in diabetes. How come 1 century later, the unsinkable become unthinkable? So what is diabetes? The definition of diabetes is the loss of a pancreatic function that are unable to produce or use insulin. However, real-life long-term study shows without insulin is better. Without medicine is even better. And the UKPDS 25 years later shows what? No medication, just diet can get the same result as use insulin. So what has went wrong? I'm talking about a trinity in diabetes. The 3 things with us brought: insulin, glucagon, and the diet about cholesterol. So let me start with something unexpectedly. Ammonia. What is ammonia? Ammonia is a condition that just small increase the corrosive toxin that we all remember from the toilet smell. Small increase can cause brain damage, even death. And what it can cause in the body, oxidative stress, autophagy, inhibition, all these things we are very familiar in diabetes. And now bring it back to diabetes, what's going on? Glucagon fundamental mistake is not even about sugar. It is about a protein. Why? The regulation of protein amino acid metabolism is the core metabolic physiological regulation role of glucagon. And then what happened? What this means? Amino acid metabolism. In this process, protein breakdown, you get ammonia. And because of that, the role of glucagon is not about sugar. It's about ammonia removal, ureagenesis, and energy expenditure. So how that relate to that? Ureagenesis is the only way to remove ammonia. And the liver is the only organ with all the enzyme that you require to remove ammonia. And glucagon happen to be the only one can make that happen. So, protein toxicity has been reported. Just look at it in this short spring. 380,000 articles, neurodegenerative, glucogenic, all these. Low protein diet benefit and high protein diet associated with increased insulin resistance, diabetes, cancer, cardiovascular, all these things. And I just put the latest publication, even was a novel insight into Alzheimer's, fatty liver, all these conditions relate to ammonia. This is just article last week. So what is going on? Why we made a mistake with glucagon? Because most of the protein are glucogenic. So when you break down protein, the sugar comes out. So it turns out it's only the side effect. Glucagon is actually the police Where's crime? There's a police. We take the police as the criminals. So now, let's see the diabetic hepatic encephalopathy. This is the condition what we're actually facing. So when we use insulin, yes, we succeeded with control sugar, but what we failed to recognize, protein catabolism, energy catabolism, and lipid catabolism, all these prohibited. This is what's happening. So after insulin introduced, this medical journalist, after more than 10 years of follow-up, say, a short-term diabetic coma turned into a long-term health complication. And Jocelyn, we all know, what he said, insulin is a remedy for the wise, not for the foolish. Be patient or doctors. And everyone knows it requires brain to live long with diabetes, but to use insulin successfully requires more brain. There's no type 1, type 2, or any type of diabetes, only about energy. It's only two, catabolic, anabolic. Before insulin introduced, everybody was thinking, as soon as you put on insulin, people become anabolic. And let's continue with this process. We're linked to the trinity of diet. 1984, cholesterol as a killer. Change our diet forever. We don't eat fat. We only eat two things, carbon and protein. So what happens? This is the first time I mentioned worldwide. Nobody has ever noticed glucagon-insulin parallel release. So this is what we all familiar when we eat carbohydrate diet or take, let's say, OGTT. Insulin increase, glucagon decrease. However, as soon as we have a mixed diet, what happened? Insulin, glucagon parallel increase at the same time. So what you displaying is that normal people have the same pattern as diabetes because the carb triggers insulin and protein triggers glucagon release. So this pattern, not only in study with healthy people, any type of patient, even animal study, shows exactly the same. And you look at the study all this year about insulin resistance, even in normal glucose tolerance, we already saw 60%. And where it really happens, we look at the gut. You say, GLP-1 increase insulin, suppress glucagon, and create this pattern we know. This is the normal pattern we have. However, when we have a mixed diet, it's not a glucagon, it's actually GIP. GIP increase insulin and glucagon at the same time. And my dear friend, Dr. Sabu, invited me to the talk many years ago. I talked with former IDF president, Dr. Chu. I used his data to show him that what's the true value of his study. You see, their study shows well, it's not GLP-1. It's the GIP actually independent of other risk factor for diabetes. And now we're finding this is what they find. But they didn't recognize what it means. So what it really means, you look through all the different studies, see, insulin resistant, hypoglycemia, etc., it's all associated with GIP, not GLP-1. So diabetes is not sugar disease. It's the matrix between the brain, the gut, and the liver. So there's three things, nitric, glycemic, and oxidative stress. So what happens is this battle led to GIP increased and the liver first because liver is the most important organ. The only organ can regenerate. You cannot live without organ of liver. And you cannot live with glucagon without glucagon. You know why? Because even you take out complete pancreas, glucagon will secrete from gut again because this is the most important thing to keep us alive. And this is what it really happened. Eventually, we look at diabetes. So, beta cells turn into alpha cells, and all the diseases we characterize, all different diseases set up. And because of time, I'm rushing because this is really a long step towards the end. So this is also matching with the normal finding, beta cell turning into alpha cell, and supposed to reach that's the goal of prevention, treat beta cell function. And then again, ammonia happened in diabetes in all different links fatty liver diseases. And what really, are there fatty livers? Or are they alcoholic? No, because when you give alcohol suppresses glucagon, so you cannot catabolize fat. So you ended up fatty liver. And if you drink and eat carb at the same protein at the same time, you get gout because you cannot release ammonia. This is the main reason. And the same thing we all know. I know Dr. Wimo had almost 20 years. I was the first one to talk about AGE measurement. Advanced glycation anaphylaxis. All these consequences we're looking at in diabetes is nothing but energy disbalance. So now today you see landmark study also through protein through our body. And then you look at the linking also today. All these factors, we call it promoting, they actually trigger mTOR that stimulate cancer. So 20 million individuals with 1 million events show diabetes cancer exactly correlated. So if there's any disease model, this is what I suggest first. Unified disease model. So there's only one disease. The carb give you carbo stress, the fat give you oxidative stress, and the protein give nitric stress. So you can fit into all the diseases we described in this one model. And I have presented before. So hypoglycemia and AGE, all these contribute. So now I'm going to move on to the next step, talk about what really matters is death. What happened with diabetes? Diabetes, what is the cause of death? Let's look at something, regulation of hypoglycemia. So when you just developing diabetes or normal, your hypoglycemia is regulated by two things, glucagon and adrenaline. But when diabetes develop as exceeding more than 10 years, what happens? Then glucagon and adrenaline both not regulating when your blood sugar is low. What does it mean? That's after 10 years, patient reach advanced stage. And that's the moment, worldwide guideline, intensify treatment with insulin. And so, what is the cause of patient? Prolonged use, basal, all these long life insulin, suppress glucagon to release energy, and also in the end, after more than 10 years, glucagon no longer respond to hypoglycemia. So patient died from hypoglycemia because the right guideline, worldwide guideline on insulin usage. I prove that. You look at type 1, type 2, all different diabetes diseases, all the large studies, and I put together to look at the answer. So DCCT UK PDS, why they succeeded? Why advanced accord failed? Type 1 diabetes immediately after diagnosis. Type 2 diabetes immediately after diagnosis. So using insulin, no problem. But after more than 10 years, none of the studies succeeded because the glucagon is no longer respond. And then what happened? Patient died, classified as cardiovascular death. The truth is misclassified. How many? 19 out of 41. Wrongly classified. It died from hypoglycemia, but it classified as cardiovascular. And so many times, I challenge all the doctors to check your patient. What time they die? What medication you're on? You say, sorry, the slide's a little bit... So, sorry about that. So diabetes medication went wrong. We talk about all the deaths. We don't know why, what it caused it. This study, doctor in Japan, he's the chairperson for glucagon research in Japan. I went back to him with his own data to show why we fail to understand glucagon. I did sub-analysis for him. You see, people experience severe hypoglycemia. Most of them, about 75%, they will actually have diabetes with duration more than 10 years. And then let's look at, that is the state. So then look at the treatment. Almost 94% on insulin or stimulating insulin secretion. The hypoglycemia was mentioned the same year as insulin has been used by Jocelyn. And again, about long-lasting hypoglycemia. But it doesn't mean glucagon is not right. Insulin, you must use early, short-term, just like Dr. V. Mohan. I see this is really the right path. When at early stage, glucagon, the only reason diabetes is failed to regulating because the normal regulation is a reverse pulsatile release. So when you lost that, you have diabetes. But at that time, you give it short-term insulin, it immediately rebounds back with the result. Remarkable. That's, I think, in India, worldwide. Nobody, would recognize Dr. V. Mohan's work. I think this is fantastic work. This is actually something we should look into in diabetes management. So insulin is not work. It's the way we didn't understand what diabetes is. And then now go back to even more profound, why drug development failed. This is a question I cannot give name. I regard him as the best scientist in diabetes field. He's the living person who had the most reference in the world on diabetes. And he have a question, and I could answer. And I dare not to give a presentation because it's humiliating. I'm too humble to do that. So animal study, why successful? We get animal, we kill their pancreas, but nothing has happened to glucagon-insulin relationship to the liver. So that's why when you develop a diabetic drug in such animal model, you're very easily successful. But when you go to life, then what happens? Is this no longer exist in diabetes patient. The intact liver, GIP and GOP, they all gone. This is why drug development going into human stage all failed. So therefore today I look at a clinical study, I cannot give a comment. I contact the publisher, will publish on Lancet. And even their result, I contact them. They also didn't understand the reason. So that's why their result didn't get what they expected. So I think this is very important for all of us. We've been working so many years. And today you see this is just the latest with Ozempic trap. The message, I'm really grateful I have the opportunity to talk here. I write to journals, they cannot even dare to publish what I make a comment. What is all reasons is ammonia. Because GLP-1 suppress glucagon, and then ammonia cannot go. So why kidney diseases? You know, kidney disease, and why you pee insulin, pee protein? Because if glucagon come out, release ammonia, you die. So that's why they're not going to degrade it anymore. Just pee the protein directly from your kidney. So though this is all hand in hand, linked into a fundamental mistake in diabetes. And this is also a message I come to India. I say, you see, we look at diabetes care. We should look at a foundation. You know, what is the true research? It's looking at everybody has seen, but to think, nobody else has solved. That's what we should do. If a scientist dare not challenge our foundation, how you can call yourself a scientist? Today, I'm very pleased to see all the worldwide effort on diabetes. But the reality is, we are living 1 century diabetes. That's the reality. Ignorance is the root of all evil. And it's time I really play to everyone to look into the science we believe, look into our heart. Have we really did the right thing? I'm son of India. I'm coming home with this message. And I really thank you all these fantastic audience, experts. You are the one has the power to change the world. The power is in you. And I hope we all can do that. Thank you very much.